Okay, hello everyone. My name is Patricia. I'm the marketing manager of the Yoga Loft, and we continue our interview series. And today it's a great pleasure. I'm super excited that we finally have our beloved Chrissy Lefavour with us on the interview. Chrissy has a long history with the Yoga Loft. She's, so to say, the grandma of it. But I don't want to give away too much because I want you to let you introduce yourself. Hi, Chrissy.
Hi, Patricia. So I am Chrissy Lefavour, and yes, I first visited the Yoga Loft myself in 2016, and then I brought a group for yoga teacher training there in the fall of 2016. I still run yoga teacher trainings through Rise and Vibe Yoga, and then I also have a yoga studio called Graceful Yoga, which has pivoted to 100% virtual offerings in our most recent remodeling, I guess you might call it.
Yeah, and you're also a water woman, right? You're a surfer, a kite surfer.
So I live here in the Dominican Republic now, and that's sort of like it's really one of my huge passions is being on the water, by the water, doing water sports, encouraging not only everyone in the world to do water sports, but especially women. I've been working a lot on like female empowerment through water sports and naturally through yoga as well. Yoga is actually what got me into water sports. I was thinking about that because I started teaching paddleboard yoga, and that was my first like water sport that I started doing was on the paddleboard.
Yeah. And then did that start in the DR or that you got into surfing and kitesurfing?
That started in Vermont, the paddleboard yoga.
Yeah.
But I was a snowboarder, so I'm from Vermont in the United States, and I grew up as a snowboarder as practicing board sports. So when I moved to the Dominican Republic, it was one of the top things that I wanted to learn. And I started with surfing lessons, and then I progressed to the kite surfing lessons. But you know, the learning curve with surfing versus kite surfing is kind of the opposite direction. So I'm still learning both, but I love surfing and I love kite surfing.
It's like with yoga, right? You're always practicing kind of. There's the ocean and the wind just throw something at you and you have to deal with it the same as on the yoga mat. You are the person you are right now, so deal with it somehow.
Yeah. It's being in the present moment, being very, very connected for sure.
Do you see other connections between, it's not our topic at all today, I know, but now that we are on that ocean thread, let's maybe finish it. Do you see other connections between these water sports and yoga?
Absolutely. The focus and the concentration, like the one-pointedness is something we speak about in yoga and meditation a lot, having a one-pointed focus, and that's sort of like what comes before true meditation and this meditative calm that you reach. It's first just focus your mind on one thing, and when you're kite surfing or when you're practicing yoga and you're in the moment and listening to your body and reacting to movement, environment, whatever it might be. Sometimes when you're on your yoga mat, you might be experiencing like emotions or memories or things like that, and when you're in the ocean, you are definitely reacting to the ocean and the conditions around you. So I think it requires the same amount of attention and single pointed focus, which is super good for our brain and our mental health as well. So not just the physical benefits, but a lot of the same mental benefits as well.
Yeah, if I may add on to that, at least that's the biggest benefits for me. It's very humbling, but also very empowering because it's the same with yoga, this non-attachment that, you know, okay, you can deal with that. It's just breathe through it, and whatever the ocean or life throws at you, you will be able to handle it. So yeah, this is where I see the biggest connection between yoga and the water sports, right? Yeah.
I always say when I go surfing, like if I don't catch a wave, it's still a good day on the water, you know, just getting out there and doing the practice, which is the same with yoga. You don't know exactly how your body's going to feel every day, but you always know that after you're done, you're going to feel great.
Yeah.
So that's also a parallel.
It is totally, yeah. How do we make the transition now back to retreats and your story with the Yoga Loft? You were also at one point the manager of the Yoga Loft, and then you transitioned to having your own business.
Yes, so I was the
Plata.
manager. I was the manager at the Yoga Loft for most of the years of 2018 and 2019. And so that job included managing a regular kind of studio schedule, but also working with groups, whether they were yoga specific groups coming down for a yoga retreat or other retreat groups who wanted to do a yoga session as a part of their retreat. And as I mentioned, I did my yoga teacher trainings there, which I still offer here now at Yoga Kite Camp in Puerto Plata and worldwide. So working at the Yoga Loft was a big transition in the step to seeing how different groups run different retreats, and coming from all over the world was one of the coolest things about the crowd that Cabarete kind of attracts in general, is that worldwide international crowd. So that was part of my job there, and really a fun part of it.
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, what happened since then? We know that we have the pandemic. I know that you are now a team rider as well for a water sports company, and you totally transitioned your businesses, as you already mentioned in your yoga businesses, as you already mentioned in your intro, that the Vermont Grateful Yoga Studio is now 100% online. Yeah.
So like many people in 2020, I've kind of had this transformation, and I've already been working with the yoga kite surfing retreat combination. It's how I lived my life anyways. And my husband was actually already a rider for the Cabrina team. So it was his suggestion. He's also my kite surfing coach, to reach out to them and see if they maybe wanted to take me on as a free rider. So I started that just last month as a Cabrina team rider. So I'm trying to embrace more water sports as a part of not only my personal life, but also my professional life, because sharing it has given me just as much joy as sharing yoga has given me. So sharing both water sports and yoga is definitely will be the future as people start to travel more again. And then moving the yoga studio online has been, again, just that kind of international reach again, and people coming from all over the world, all different backgrounds, all different comfort levels to take yoga classes online, as many people have throughout the pandemic, and will into the future. We're sure about that. So it's one thing we know we can offer, and as long as there is an internet connection, we can stay connected at least a little bit. And it's been just the regular classes, and now the yoga teacher training going online has been, for me, just a gift to be able to keep doing what I love, because there was a while we weren't allowed to go kite surfing and we weren't allowed to go surfing, but we were still allowed to practice yoga and be connected by the internet. So it's been kind of a big transformation, but still moving in the direction of more yoga, more water sports, and just sharing it with as many people as possible, both here in the Dominican Republic, but also all over the world. And there's another parallel between surfing and yoga, and kite surfing and yoga. It's something people do across the globe from all different backgrounds, all different histories. The more you learn about it, the more amazing it really is, like how many people are out there doing yoga every minute of every day, meditating, trying to be better people. Yeah, totally. And do good work with those people that they create, to then go out and do good work and make change and live life.
Yeah. I know that, coming back to the Grateful Studio in Vermont, that you tried to sell that for a long time, and now I think there was the pandemic was kind of a blessing, because you found a really cool way of dealing with it. kind of, right?
Yeah, it was being far away that always made me feel a little bit of disconnect. When I moved away from the studio, there was talk about non-attachment and letting go. So there was always that piece that I physically had let go of this yoga space, but I know personally that being able to take my yoga space with me everywhere I go is another huge gift. So being able to share that with people has been really great, and everybody's grateful for it too. You know, people for a long time after I moved to the island said, "Why don't you teach yoga online? Why don't you teach yoga online?" And I never really had a reason not to, except for I was teaching so much yoga to real humans, you know. So it's been great. It's been great for not just myself, but the students, and that's been for me what makes it worthwhile. Despite like internet connection issues that we all have, it's just like getting stuck in traffic or something like that on the way to the studio. So it's just really been a true shift, I think.
Yeah. And interesting that you say that even your community was craving for it. Yeah, was calling for it.
Yeah. And not everybody, but some people for sure.
Yeah. And it also allowed you to be much more international, much more global. I know that one of your teachers is in India.
She's in Pune, India. And then I'm in the Dominican Republic. My husband also teaches one class a week from here. And our other instructors are still in Vermont. So a still strong connection to the community there. But that's always been part of the studio too, is people move away and you never see them again. So some of those people, my cousin who lives in Pennsylvania, for example, she comes to class sometimes and I get to see her, and that never used to happen when I had a studio in Vermont. So that's one of the really cool things. My mom can come to class even though she's there and I'm here. So it's been really cool.
And you can share a little bit of ocean and Caribbean vibes with them.
Sometimes I show the scenery every once in a while behind. I'll be like, look at the sunrise, or we'll do a class at the beach if we can make a connection. But yeah, it's fun.
Nice.
It's fun.
Yeah. And how do you already see kind of how do you organize that online studio now? And do you have kind of a group effect already? How do you grow your community?
So I am lucky enough to have a wonderful teacher myself. Her name is McNames from Yoga Vermont, and she trained me through my 500 hours of training. And she had already made a shift to offering some online yoga studio offerings pre-pandemic, and was using Patreon as a platform to have links to videos and Zoom rooms and things like that. So I launched off of that model as well. So we use Patreon as our landing page for members, and the membership start at $1 a day. So it's like this really crazy new model that I always said, owning a studio, I would never have a membership fee that low, because rent is so high on a lot of studio places because of square footage. That's what's really been hurting yoga studios throughout the pandemic. So not having that worry has been really a gift to our students as well, who maybe never came to the yoga studio or couldn't afford to come to the studio. So having the Patreon membership and being able to connect to our students, connect to more students, and make the yoga as accessible as possible. We have a blog. We're working on getting children's content up there. So not just videos, but like activities you can do with your kids, like a step-by-step to how to play a yoga game with your family kind of thing. So we're trying to use Patreon as the landing site for all sorts of different like media outlets, videos, pictures, written form instructions, blogs, all sorts of stuff.
Mm-hmm. And do you already see an increase in the community, or is it just pooling in the members you had in the studio before?
It's slowly pulling in new members. This is what's really cool, is I'm laughing again because my mom's a member, but so like there's some really close family folks who are members, and then there are folks who I don't even know their names, and you know, they found us or they've been following us online for a long time and could never visit our studio. That's another reason they're joining now. So I wasn't expecting that, and that's another cool thing that we've now reached just brand new people. And the time of year, it being, you know, early October, it's a time of transition for so many people with the back to school that just happened in a new way for a lot of people. So slowly people are checking out our memberships. With that $1 a day membership, you get a 1 week free of classes pre-recorded. So you can play as you go, you know, pick one class, take it in a day. We have 7 classes a week with 7 different instructors. So with that, we're hoping that at least you can find at least one maybe live class you could come to. That's where you would have to upgrade your membership. But if not, we'll keep giving you access to our pre-recorded content as much as I can upload from the Caribbean to YouTube, little by little. But it's been really fun.
Yeah.
If you can't tell, I'm getting excited talking about the online yoga studio, which is good.
Yeah, super cool. And how do you manage holding space for a community? I mean, it's kind of awkward imagining having these Zoom recordings. Can you still chat, get a vibe, hold space for a community? How does that work?
Yeah. So we do, all of the teachers log in 5 or 10 minutes early. So if our students want to come early to class, we try to be there, as well as offering to stay late. Just in my class today, as I was teaching, I encouraged people to leave comments, subscribe to the page, like, you know, to try to make it fun and address the fact that it is a little awkward and you are looking at a screen while you're also trying to do yoga. And I think that's what people have always appreciated about Grateful Yoga, is that we're just grateful to be doing yoga, and it's not going to be perfect every time. And you know, it is a little awkward. I totally get that. So I think we've just been working with it and then trying to find the live connection, you know, across the internet whenever we can connect to our folks. I'm going to try to do like a virtual movie screening, because it's another thing we've done with the online platform is we're sending a portion of our memberships towards a cause every month. So this month's cause is towards building coral reefs back up in the ocean. So because we don't have these high overheads, there's another silver lining. We can actually give back to our community in a way that wasn't so easy before when we had so many expenses. So we're connecting with our community in ways we never thought we could, and we're holding the space all over the place, I guess. It's been really fun. Yeah.
And I think it was the same with the other part of your business, Rise and Vibe, and it's yoga teacher trainings, that it also grew super organically suddenly online, right? I mean, you were pulling in people from all over the world.
A lot of people, I think, kind of felt that too, when it was like, okay, well, what can we do right now? And it was like, anything that you can do online, you can do online. So not everyone tried it, but a lot of people tried it. And for me, the feedback, we always had an ongoing yoga teacher training program where people were coming monthly or daily and training at their own pace in person. So to find a way for people to still do that and to make it available to our students was necessary and important, and turned out to be kind of fun and really valuable. So, you know, it really worked for us. And like I always say, we couldn't do it without having our students and our community, and having the community feedback and say, we like this, we need this, we look forward to waking up at 6 a.m. and doing a little bit of mantra. Like, that part is still true, even online, especially online, you know, like if that's the only way you can get it, then just having like a little screen doing mantra at you at 6 a.m. live was helpful to people, and it was fun for me. And that's always kind of been the underlying truth of why we do what we do, I guess.
Yeah. What I mentioned in our pre-discussion before we started recording is that I mean, everybody who does an online teacher training, people always say, oh, it's not the same, and you need the in-person contact. Yes, but I also think we should acknowledge how much self-discipline and commitment and motivation you need to bring up to do your 200 or 300 hours online, right? I mean, that also maybe weighs it. Yeah,
and that's what we've seen. A lot of interest is in the 300-hour program. People who are already trained at the 200-hour level, who have been looking for the time and space to add 300 more hours on top of that, I think is a challenge for some folks. So people really took advantage, and still are taking advantage of that opportunity. So it opened up this space in a really weird way that wasn't there for people before. And people who already know the discipline that it takes to do a 200-hour, I think we're totally prepared for that and said, okay, this is not only going to benefit my yoga teaching as a yoga teacher, but me as a person. And a lot of people come to teacher training for that reason, to learn the practice themselves, maybe not necessarily to teach yoga, but because they know it's something, the knowledge and the practice itself will be beneficial to them as human beings. So that's a really cool thing to see people take time to do in a time of pandemic and
where everybody else freaks out and is
and that you can spend your time online doing a lot of different things these days, you know. So choosing to do yoga with your time online, I think, is probably a wise one. Of all the things you could choose to do on a screen, it's not a bad choice.
Totally.
I started doing Pilates on a screen with one of my friends who started teaching online, so that's something that I took up because it was online.
Available.
So
and, yeah,
cool.
Cool.
you take the opportunities you want to, you know, you leave the ones you don't, but it's been really cool to see these opportunities, I think.
Yeah. A personal question, because I'm speaking with so many family and friends, and at one point everybody has kind of a pandemic low. Did that happen to you as well? Where you were
I feel like
sad?
I'm still having them.
Yeah.
I still feel it up and down. I think too, being part of my love is traveling and hosting people traveling here, and we all know tourism has seen a huge hit. So I still feel like there's so much we don't know, and everything's still up and down. But for me, in life in general, it's the trend of the ups, always getting higher up, you know. So I still feel like all the cool things we're learning how to do and the opportunities we are seeing. And it's October now. I'm starting to schedule into 2021, you know, kind of like a new window. So I feel like we can start to plan for the future a little bit more.
Yeah.
So just keep getting those ups a little bit more up. But I still feel like there's definitely some pandemic mode. Maybe it's also like election season in the United States. That's kind of fiery. Like, there's a lot going on in the world that still needs to be done, but that's regular, I guess, you know.
Yeah.
We all have our ups and our downs, and definitely having the teacher training and the yoga students throughout the pandemic has kept me going up and up and up, for sure.
Yeah.
And having them say thank you, and we love this and we enjoy this, and they tune in, and it's been really good.
And it's such a non-controversial topic, yoga. Right?
Most of the time, I like to try to keep it that way as much as possible. Yeah.
Did I want to ask something else about yoga teacher training? Yeah, in November, I know that you have in-person training again, and you do kind of a hybrid mode now with evergreen pre-recorded online stuff and then in-person portions, right?
So we have now officially launched an online and in-person options where you can do either or a combination of both. We're still getting content online, but we already have a lot of hours uploaded to our online library that people can access. We have an in-person training going on in Vermont, still happening one weekend a month. And then I still do my intensives, which the next one starts November 1st here, where people can come stay 1, 2, or 3 weeks and get as many as 200 hours in during that time if they stay for the entire 3-week training. So I've always liked working with small groups. That's been one of my favorite things. So I've never worked with large groups, and I think that's a benefit to traveling within a pandemic and feeling comfortable within a group is, you know, we won't go over 8 or 10 people. So working in small groups has always been important to me, and it makes all of us feel safe and supported through in-person trainings. The studio in Vermont is limited to 7 people because of square footage restrictions. So groups are still under 10 people, which I think is one of the things people can feel good about
Totally.
their trainings.
Yeah. And do you want to talk a little bit about your personal yoga story? Is it still evolving? In which ways? What do you observe these days?
I do a lot more like restorative, slow flow yin yoga now that I'm surfing and kite surfing as much as I am. So I would say my time is split, my physical activity time is split more equally between activities like surfing and kite surfing and yoga now, like 50-50. Whereas before I started those activities, I was mostly just practicing yoga every day, a few times a day. So that shifted. And I still love practicing yoga, especially Ashtanga yoga, so that hasn't changed. And I'm learning new stuff all the time. So I recently signed up for a Kemetic yoga training, which is the Egyptian branch of yoga, which is really cool. And I've been thinking about taking a prenatal yoga teacher training because all of my friends are getting pregnant and having babies. So I feel like maybe I should learn how to teach. I know some stuff, but maybe I should take a training there. So I'm still training myself. And yeah, the practice changes all the time. I meditate a lot more than I ever have. I think that's kind of the natural projection for people who take yoga on for a lifetime is they move into a more meditative practice as they get older. And besides that, I don't think it's changed that much, the practice itself. That's kind of the cool part about it, right? Is like it's the deep breathing and the one-pointed focus and the trying to calm your mind, doing the mantras. Like it's been a few years since you've done teacher training, but it's still pretty much the same thing, you know? We do the same thing, and I think that's what's kind of beautiful about yoga too, is that consistency to the practice.
Yeah, you're a couple of years younger than me, but for me it's more of repairing damage in the body, balancing more. Yeah, that's what I'm focused on these days, that the imposture, it starts already there, but yeah, all these balancing things. That's in the foreground.
I still
for
do
me
a
these
lot
days.
of handstands. I still do a lot. But I hurt my wrist surfing. My surfboard hit my wrist, and I couldn't do or it wasn't comfortable to do handstands for a while. So that's one thing. The injuries when you do extreme sports, it's one of those things where you just never know what's going to happen. So, you know, I was tumbling through a wave, and the board just hit me, and it hit my hand, which was actually probably a good thing. It didn't hit my head or something, you know. So
and you passed out.
But
or
it
something.
really. It took me like 4 weeks to heal my wrist. So I'm back to my handstands. So still love handstands.
Nice. Yeah. And is there anything else besides yoga? We've been talking about the water sports. What else is happening in your life? Do you want to share something? Do you plan on having international retreats next year? Those are
so
two
that's
questions,
one of the things. Yeah, that's what I'm looking at. And one of the things that I've wanted to focus on are retreats that combine water sports and yoga. So I'm always hosting people and teaching them yoga and water sports, but setting up some dates with excursions and everything included. That's on the roster for 2021. Like I said, I just started looking at dates and traveling and figuring out who can come from where and what's available for people. Accommodations are a big thing right now, and finding space for people to have space is important for, I think, retreats in the future. So small groups, but mostly like yoga and surfing, and yoga and kite surfing retreats is what I'm looking at into hopefully the beginning of 2021. Like this winter, it would be nice to have some retreat dates come out. And then there'll be another teacher training. We have one starting November 1st, and the next one will be in the spring of 2021. So I'm going to plan one for the spring and one for the summer, which is usually in the United States. That planning for me feels like further away, so I might hold off on that one. But yeah, yoga and water sports retreats, I think that's what we look at. And then the other piece of my business is helping people plan retreats. So if anyone needs help or is looking at places to go, like it's possible. People are traveling. I have a group coming next month. So it is possible. And if you feel safe traveling yourself, then other folks probably feel the same. So
yeah. And
yeah.
you think that's the smaller groups will be a trend? Do you have any other feedback from people traveling to you, what they are focusing on or what they would like to see in order to feel comfortable traveling?
The other thing that I've always offered, which I'm going to start pushing a little bit more, is people bringing their own groups and bringing their own people. Get a group of people from their studio. I know a lot of people are operating in pods right now anyway, so if you travel with people who you already feel comfortable with, I think that's hugely helpful. So encouraging studios, teachers, or just regular people who want to go on a trip to maybe get a few people who you already know to come down with you. You know, I've done groups as small as 3 people, and we host single people traveling all the time, or couples who travel all the time. So I think there's no limits keeping people who want to travel from traveling now. Just maybe what you offer as a teacher and as a retreat center, that just shifts a little bit, and you target definitely people who can bring their own groups, families, bachelorette parties, weddings, who knows?
Yeah.
Who knows?
Who knows? Who knows? But
Yeah.
interesting, I remember when we've been talking in the yoga teacher training that you really have kind of a yearly routine when you set things up. And yeah, now this routine, the way how you schedule your retreats, now you're a little bit more cautious to not maybe schedule the summer yoga teacher training already. Yeah.
Yeah, and so I was lucky in that I only had to cancel one in-person thing, and that was the summer teacher training this past year. This November one was scheduled for a long time, and I didn't have anything in between. So I think as teachers and retreat leaders, people are maybe hesitant to book, but my experience with the few retreat centers and places I've spoken to who host retreats is that people are eager to book you as the retreat host and as the group coming in, and they are happy to make deposits easy and make things refundable. And if you have to cancel, like almost every accommodation has come up with a more COVID-friendly refund policy and things like that. So I think that going for it, like now is the time, and people are ready to travel again, and definitely looking into 2021 with some more in-person opportunities than we had in 2020.
Yeah. Yeah. Exciting. Let's see what happens, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm already at the end of my questions, Chrissy. Is there anything you'd like to add?
The only other thing that I just popped into my head is that people are also doing yoga retreats online. So that's the other thing that's possible. I haven't attended one myself, nor have I hosted one yet. But for those people who aren't traveling and still want to retreat, or you can like binge watch the Grateful Yoga Studio virtual library, you know, like you could take yourself on a virtual yoga retreat. So I would just send out a friendly reminder to everyone to do more yoga and find more time for rest. And the screen time can be super tough. I get that. So our goal has always been like helping people practice yoga when they need it the most, whether your yoga teacher is there with you or not. So I think making sure people are gentle with themselves as we move through whatever the future holds, and finding a way to keep the practice going. It's just practice. So taking the pressure off is really all we're trying to do.
Beautiful. Yeah, thank you so much, Chrissy. I think we close the interview with these wise words. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Patricia.